Hey everybody, it's Karen McLaughlin, certified personal trainer here in Hamilton, Ontario. Here with you for my Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Facebook Live broadcast. Sorry I am late. I had technical difficulties for the very first time. It wasn't letting me go live, and thank you to Tara for helping me figure out that if I went off my Wi-Fi, it would work, because I couldn't figure it out because my internet is fine, but apparently it was not liking the Wi-Fi today. So without further ado, I'm going to get into today's topic, and I apologize because the background is a little odd. This is like my upstairs hallway because I was running around the house with my phone trying to figure out if I had a weird, spot where I wasn't getting the internet. So I've just plonked myself down here where I finally got the darn thing going. So you got a wonderful view of my upstairs hallway of my 91-year-old house, okay? Actually a 92-year-old house this year, I guess. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into today's topic, which is discipline, and more specifically, discipline equals happiness. And I know many of you are thinking right now, you've got to be kidding me. Discipline equals drudgery, because that's what most of us think of when we hear the word discipline. We think, nose to the grindstone, slaving away, really hard. But that's really not what discipline is about. Discipline will help you get the life that you want to have. And of course, I'm going to be focusing on the health and fitness aspects of this a little bit, because that's what I do. But discipline is key to helping you achieve really everything you want in every area of your life. Okay? So I'm just going to start out with a general comment that discipline, the reason I say discipline equals happiness is because discipline allows us to actually create more freedom in our life, contrary to thinking that it's drudgery and it's locking us into kind of a slave mentality. Discipline actually helps us to create more freedom in our life. And the reason that it does that is because it allows us to build structures and routines into our lives that free up our energy for the things that really matter to us. Okay? And I know if you're like me, I resisted the idea of structure for many, many years. I was like the dirty S word for me, structure, because I'm kind of one of those people who thinks that, being more freewheeling and kind of going with the flow, doing what I want moment to moment is a lot more fun. But the truth is, some of us actually do well with a very highly structured environment, and some of us do well with less structure, but we all do need some structure. So it's understanding what underlying structures you need and using the discipline to create those, and then that allows you to free up the rest of your time and your life energy to do all those other things that are important to you. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about 5 key areas where discipline is important. You don't have to be disciplined 100% of the day from the second you wake up until the minute you go to bed. That's not what I'm talking about. But there's 5 areas where if you exercise discipline in those areas, it's really going to maximize your ability to utilize the rest of your day in the way that you really want to be doing that, okay? So number 1, and for any of you who have been watching my videos for the rest of the year, I started doing these in January, the first week of January, so you're not going to be surprised to hear me say this if you've been watching along with me. The number one where I want you to focus on using discipline is in building your habits, okay? And the reason for that is once you've built a habit, you don't need energy to do that behavior anymore. And I talk about this extensively in my video that I did right at the beginning of the year. The first one I ever did was on habits, and it was long, I'm sorry, it was over an hour, I think. but it's because it's so important. This is really key to creating change, okay? So you want to use discipline to create your new behaviors, because once they become habits, they're now effortless. So we have to push ourselves when we're trying to create change, because it's hard. We already have neural pathways, very strong neural pathways for what we're already doing, okay? So it's easy to do the things we're used to doing because we have a superhighway in our brain, neural pathway built for that behavior. When you're trying to create a new behavior, you have to build a whole new road, and so you're competing against like an empty 6-lane superhighway versus this little path you're trying to trample through the brush in the forest in your brain. So your brain likes to go where it's easier. So it's work. So this takes discipline to create the new habit. But the key is, once you've created it, you're golden, because it's effortless after it's truly a habit. So it's very difficult in the beginning, but the more you exercise your discipline and focus on creating that habit, once it's a true habit, it's automatic. There's no decision making, there's no forcing yourself, you don't have to use all that mental energy towards doing it anymore. And I'm going to give you a quick example of this, because it just happened to me very recently. I was brushing my teeth one night, and before I went to bed, and that's a good example actually of a habit most of us have that we don't think about. We all brush, right? But many of us do not floss afterwards, despite our dentists and our hygienists all harping at us for our entire lives that we need to do this, right? Well, I've actually been flossing for many, many years, and this one particular night, I went into the washroom, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I'd stayed up, I think it was the weekend, I'd stayed up much later than my normal bedtime, and I remember consciously thinking to myself, I am not flossing tonight. I'm just going to brush my teeth and go to bed. Well, the next thing I knew, I was halfway through flossing my teeth, even though I had consciously thought, I am not going to floss my teeth tonight, because it's truly a habit for me. It's so ingrained that it goes beyond thought. And that illustrates the power of what a true habit is. Once you've created a behavior that's really a solid habit, no more thought required. It just happens. It's effortless. That is why you want to use discipline to create those habits, because once they're there, they're solid, there's no thought required, there's no effort, it just happens. Okay? And so you want to use the discipline to create habits around your fundamentals, your eating, your moving, your sleeping, and your focus, that are going to support you in optimizing all those areas of your life. And once you have those habits under your belt, you're just going to go, and it's not going to be hard anymore. So you cannot, change everything at once, right? And I talked about this extensively previously. Pick one thing, work on it. No more than 3 things at once, but depending how hard you think it's going to be for you, you might want to go for one. And use discipline to create the habit, okay? So if you want more on that, go back to my first video, first week of January, and you can get a lot more on habits. And also, I want to let you guys know I'm also working on a habit hacking tool for you all that's going to help you set yourself up for success in building new habits. And that's going to be available for everybody who signs up for my newsletter. So I'll let you know when I have that ready. I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks. Okay? So that's number 1. Number 2 is, number 2 way to use discipline in your life is to push through discomfort. Okay? And so technically you're using that when you're building a habit, because you have to push through discomfort when you're creating a behavior change. But there's also going to be many, many other areas of your life, not specific to a particular habit, where you're going to have to push through discomfort. And many, many different teachers say this in one form or another, that everything you want is on the other side of your discomfort. And we're creatures of not only habit, but we're creatures of comfort. And we don't like to be uncomfortable. And unfortunately, in order to grow and to change, we absolutely have to be uncomfortable. There's no other way to grow and change than to be uncomfortable. So creating discipline around being willing to push through your discomfort is really important. And I have to tell you that there are some areas of my life where I really suck at this. I'm going to admit it. It's hard to be uncomfortable. You know, there's areas of my life where I'm good at pushing through discomfort, and there's areas where it's really hard for me. And I bet the same is true for you. So what you have to do is just commit to noticing when you are experiencing that discomfort. One example is for me, if I have to make a phone call, there's a lot of discomfort going on. I don't know why. You guys know I can talk on and on these darn Facebook videos, but I hate calling people on the phone. Even when I'm going to call a friend at first, I'm like, I don't. Once we start talking, of course I can go forever, but I don't know what it is about me on the phone. I don't like it, and if I'm not sure who I'm going to be talking to or how the conversation's going to go, you can bet I'm really going to be uncomfortable. So that's just one quick example of something I know for me that's difficult. But it can, these things can happen, like at any given point in the day, something can come up. Whether it's like, something that happens between you and a coworker, a spouse, a child, or just some task you've got to do, like, taxes comes to mind, because here in Canada we have until the end of April to get them done, but still, it's like one of those things that hangs over your head, because it's uncomfortable to do your taxes. It's like you're looking at your income and there's all these cruddy forms, you don't know how to fill them out. Uncomfortable, right? But the sooner you acknowledge the discomfort and just sit down and do it, the quicker it's over, right? And then you just move on to something else. So the more you use discipline in learning to push through discomfort, the easier and easier it gets. You're going to get stuff done quicker because you're not going to procrastinate about it forever and a day. Because that's why we procrastinate. Something makes us feel uncomfortable, so we don't do it. So practice. Next time you feel that discomfort, just go, do it, and get it over with. Because what I notice is every single time I do one of those things that I've been procrastinating about, that I've been feeling uncomfortable about doing, the minute it's done, like wham, I feel like I've lost 50 pounds. So why do I do that every time? I just wait and wait and wait. Like, just do it, okay? So use discipline to push through discomfort. And one of the other interesting things about this is, just to talk about a specific personal training kind of thing, is it's interesting to me that when I have a new client come to me, they're really concerned usually about the physical discomfort that I'm going to cause them, like, what are you going to make me do and how bad is it going to hurt? Like, they don't usually blatantly say that to me, but I can tell they're thinking it. I work with beginner and reluctant exercisers, and so these are people who usually haven't done a lot of physical activity, and they are often really concerned about what's going to happen and, how bad is this going to hurt. But truly, what it ends up being more about is, certainly there can be, some physical discomfort in exercising, especially if you're new to it. But you shouldn't be following the no pain, no gain mentality. You shouldn't be exercising so that it's excruciating, especially if you're a beginner. But what this discomfort ends up being more about is mental and emotional discomfort, because creating behavior change is really what this is about. So forming that sorry, I keep sniffling, my nose is a little runny all of a sudden. Creating change in your physical activity is just another, these are more habits. And, if I'm teaching people a specific exercise, their brain, their neurology has to learn how to do that exercise. So, you're forming new neural pathways there, and just in how you're moving your body. And so sometimes it can create physical discomfort, but that's very fleeting, and the bigger challenge is always the mental and emotional work to stick with it and persevere when you don't feel like doing it, when you're frustrated because you feel like you're flailing around like a chicken with its head cut off, and you're self-conscious because you don't feel like you're doing the movement perfectly or gracefully or whatever. So it's really, as much as personal training is about getting people to move, the challenge is not as much about physical discomfort as it is about mental and emotional discomfort. So, huge discipline to push through, okay? So that was number 2. And really what you want to remember here is it takes courage to create change, okay? If you're going from not exercising to starting to move your body, that's a big change. If you are used to eating a pretty crappy diet and you want to start eating healthier foods, that's a big change. If you want to start walking in the evening when you're used to lying on the couch eating chips and watching TV with your spouse, that's a big change. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to create change, and that's what you need to push through the discomfort. So let's just acknowledge that. It takes courage to create the change, and that's what it takes to push through discomfort. So start thinking about yourself as being a more courageous person. Say, I have the courage to do that. It's amazing what that can do, because I don't know, I spent a lot of my life thinking about myself as a wimp, so that didn't help. And when I started realizing, you know what, I've lived through a lot of crap, and I have actually managed to accomplish some pretty decent stuff. And I thought, you know what, I've got to stop that. There's a lot of things I've done that took courage, and so I do have courage. So you start thinking about yourself as a courageous person who has the discipline to push through discomfort, okay? So that was number 2. Number 3, and I really want you guys to hear this one, because this one is going to be, I think, the hardest one for you to actually really take into your heart, because our culture does not support this. But the third area where I want you guys to use discipline is in knowing when to back off, okay? Knowing when to back off or to switch course. And this is really hard. And I'm going to specifically speak about this in terms of physical exercise, although there's other areas where it could be appropriate, but it's really obvious, although not easy in this area. So what I'm talking about here is, you're a runner, and you always run a certain number of miles a week, or kilometers. I should be nice and Canadian and say kilometers. And you're training for an event, and you get an injury, and you just want to push through it, right? That's not always appropriate. Now, I am not a runner. I'm going to be actually the first to admit to you that I absolutely hate running. But there are different seasons in our life for different things. And this has been a hard lesson for me to learn, because I've struggled with a few niggling injuries and pains over the years that I kind of went through phases of either ignoring them or trying to push through and continue doing the exercises I wanted to do despite pain, or trying to desperately go to different therapies to rehab them, but while not really backing off on my physical activity. And so what happened is I developed a few chronic physical problems that really weren't going away. And over the last year, I really just had to admit that there's a couple of my favorite activities that I had to stop doing if I wanted my body to heal. This is really hard to do, really hard. Number one, because these were the activities where I loved to push myself, and that I got kind of a lot of that self-identification for being really sporty and tough and all that kind of stuff. But I had to finally realize if I continued doing those activities, my body wasn't going to heal. And so it's hard. These are things that I love that really, they both brought me pleasure and helped me cope with stress a lot. But what I had to realize is I had to switch activities. So now my exercise that I'm doing now is totally different than what it would have looked like a year or two ago. But it's okay. This is the message I'm trying to drive to you. If things are really hurting in your body, it's telling you something, okay? And you need to figure out if you have to back off. and it might be, for longer than you want. It might be. So I'm still spending a lot of time doing physical movement every single day. I'm doing a ton of walking. I'm doing a lot of different exercises. I'm still moving a ton, but it's very different than what I'm used to. And I'm hoping that I am going to be able to go back to those other activities at some point. But because of everything I went through in the past, I'm really being cautious, and I want to, because what I had to ask myself was, what's the end game here? I'm trying to take a long view. I'm only in my mid-40s. I want to have a healthy, robust body where I can be physically active into my 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, because it's quite possible to have that, and that's what I want. And so what I had to do is say, this is a key time for me in my life when I need to switch gears. I need to back off on aggressive stuff. I need to do what is necessary to heal these injuries, like, totally. And it's hard, so I just want to really push this one home, because our society is so push through the discomfort, suck it up, no pain, no gain, just keep going. No, this is where you really need discipline, because it's going against everything that society is telling you. So please, understand there's seasons, to what your body needs, and respect that. So if you need to back off, trust it, okay? Like, it's hard, I know, but it's absolutely okay. And if you need help figuring out what that might look like, I am here for you. And because I've lived it, I have so much empathy for this. I really understand. Because oftentimes these activities we have to maybe take a break from is also our social network. If you're in a running group, or if you do CrossFit or stuff like that, and you have to stop, it feels like your whole entire social network is gone, and somebody might as well just rip your heart out, But sometimes it is what your body needs, truly. So please listen, use the discipline, note to acknowledge, maybe I need a break. And then, like I said, if you need some help figuring that out, I'd totally be happy to help you. All right? But please don't keep pushing through it, because it's just, trust me, learn this one the hard way. It's not going to go away. It'll probably get worse, okay? So that was number 3, knowing when to back off. The fourth one is, fourth area where you should use discipline is setting boundaries, okay? And most women are terrible at this. We want to be all things to all people. But look, you can't achieve what you want without setting boundaries. You can't do everything. You cannot say yes to everyone. And no, they're not going to like it when you say no, but you have to say yes to yourself. And I know that sounds self-centered, but if you don't say yes to you, no one else is going to do it. And the problem is, the more amazing you are, the more you go out there and be of service in the world, and you offer amazing stuff, and you help so many people, more and more people are going to want you to do things for them. That's just the way it works. And you can't do it all. And you're not serving anyone else if you burn yourself out, right? So in order to keep doing what you really need to do to be of use in this world, and to do all the things that bring you joy and fulfillment, and not only just the things you need to do, but those things that you really want to do that are so important to you, you have to create boundaries, okay? And it can be really hard, but what I find is really helpful to me this year, at the beginning of the year, I got really focused and I said, look, what is this year going to be about? And I decided there was 2 things that I was going to focus on this year. One was building my business, and the other one was rehabbing my body. As I've already just shared, I've been going through quite a bit with that. So, and they're pretty interconnected, for me, my body's really important in my work. So in order for me to be able to best serve others in what I do, I have to be even extra diligent in caring for my body and making sure that it's as, robust and healthy as possible. So, And of course, that doesn't mean I'm going to ignore my family and friends. That's always a key focus of my life. But knowing that I have these two areas that I really wanted to focus on, it was like anything anybody asked me to do, it's like, well, how's that going to impact me working on my business and me working on my bod? And if, you know what, if it's going to have too much of a negative impact, because of course, you know, I'm also factoring in, I'm not ignoring my family and friends either. So that really helps me limit what I say yes to, because it gives me a really clear picture of what I'm trying to achieve. So it can be super helpful to figure out what it is you're trying to focus on at any given time. And if you're trying to create changes in your health and fitness, you have to make it a primary focus. There's no way that you're going to be successful if you don't make it a primary focus. It can't just be a little nice afterthought kind of thing. It is hard. That is why I'm here, because that's what I help people do. It is so hard to create change in any area, but you know, I think in particular in health and fitness, because there's so many ways it can backfire and go wrong, and you know, your diet can be blown in so many ways and so many social settings. There's opportunities to do the wrong thing everywhere. So you have to make it front and center. So creating clear boundaries, okay, use your discipline to do it. You are allowed to say no. Know what you're focusing on and say no to the other stuff, okay? It'll be there later. And once you accomplish what you want to accomplish, then you might be able to go back and say, now do I have time for this? Because that's the other thing. You know what? Life is not just, you know, right now. There's, for hopefully, most of us are going to have some later too. So knowing that you can't do it all now, maybe, you know, I said what this year was about for me. Previously, I just spent a couple years volunteering on a board for a local organization, and so I spent those 2 years really being devoted to that. And now it was time for me to move on. I knew, you know, it wasn't serving me or them to be engaged in that anymore, because I needed to put my life energy elsewhere. Okay, so be clear about your boundaries and stick to your guns, because people don't believe you usually. The first time you say no, they'll come back and check, are you sure? So stick to your guns on this, okay? So that was the fourth area. So the final one where you need some discipline is in creating your schedule, okay? You are in charge of your life, not anybody else. Really. I know it often seems otherwise, but it's true. And okay, I know you guys, if you have a job, you know, you have certain hours that you work, I get that. But if the hours that you work aren't working for you, that might be one area where you might want to reflect on how you could change it. Personally, I suck at working 9 to 5. I did it for quite a few years, but I never liked it, and it just didn't fit my own flow of my energy and just the way I wanted to manage my life. And that doesn't mean I'm lazy or that I don't want to work. It just means that that particular schedule and style does not suit my personality and temperament, my circadian rhythm, and all that kind of thing. So, you know, if you have a job like that doesn't suit you, you may want to consider if there's changes you could make to that, because there's lots of different options in this world right now. There's probably one that will suit you. But one thing I do, and this is so old school, I know, I don't even know whether you guys can see this on here, but I have, it's just a simple like block schedule on a white piece of paper that I sit down and fill out every Sunday night. And totally, if you're a digital person, you know, use GCal if you want to use that. I don't care what the tool is that you use. I just want you to do this, because it really revolutionized my life. Because, well, first of all, you'll notice that this whole entire thing is blank when you start, right? It's totally blank, so that you get to fill it in. And the more mindfully you do that, the better your life's going to get. And it can also help you see if your life is impossibly full. So you need to use discipline in creating your schedule, because you want this schedule to be what you want, right? So, or work towards, you know, if it's not optimal right now, you're using it to work towards what you want. So of course, you put your job in there, those things that absolutely concrete responsibilities that you have to do. But you want to put in your self-care. Please tell me you're scheduling that in. So, when you're going to go for those longer walks, if you're getting any body work done or things like that on a regular basis, massage or osteopathy, those type of things, you got to schedule that stuff. If you're doing strength training, whatever things you need to do to care for yourself, you need to put them in your schedule in very concrete spaces that you respect, okay? Because no one's going to respect them for you if you don't honor them. So schedule it just like you schedule everything else. But then the part where I find that, and I know scheduling self-care takes a little bit of discipline, but the more you do it, the more second nature it is. Now I just put it in there, and it's unless something really huge happens to change my day, that stuff is in there solid, and I'm doing it, whether I like it or not. Because I'm going to tell you, even though this is my life and this is what I help other people do, I don't always feel like doing it either, but I just do it anyway. And usually once you start, you're fine. Okay, so the part that I really want you to discipline yourself about with your schedule, well, number one is to sit yourself down and do it. So for some of you that aren't in the habit, that might take some discipline already. But number two is I want you to leave white space in your schedule, okay? Blank. Blank, blank, blank. Because what most of us do is we're just so scheduled to the gills. We feel like we have to have stuff planned out from the minute our eyes are open in the morning until the minute our head hits the pillow at night. And this is not good. Well, number one, it's just too much. Human beings are not meant to sprint 24/7 throughout our days. We just weren't designed to do that. We were designed to have rest periods. So, but the other thing I find is, if I don't leave white space in my schedule, then I have trouble sticking to the parts of my schedule, because my little inner 5-year-old has a fit and just kind of goes, I don't want to do this. I never get time to do what I want. So it's really important to leave that white space. And you have to experiment with yourself to figure out what you need. But I need a little bit of downtime most days, or I start to go a little nutty. And that's not to say, sometimes I have those crazy days where I am going from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, because I had evening meetings, I had this, I had that, and I just kind of went, I had that kind of marathon day. And I can do that every once in a while. And I think most of us we are going to end up having those days every once in a while. But if that's your day on a normal day-to-day basis, I think you need to start thinking about how you can recreate your schedule, because that's not how we were designed to live. But the white space, what you want to do with that white space, that is just totally open. So when you get to that space, then you can figure out, well, what do I want to do? It could be any, and hopefully you're not going to watch TV. The white space is supposed to be for something, if you're having one of those days where we are exhausted, your white space could be having a nice hot bath. It could be just flopping on the couch with a book. Whatever you feel like you need that's restorative in that way. But try not to watch TV. Just does weird stuff to your brain. So try not to do the TV thing. They've actually found that for most people, even though we think that watching TV is more relaxing, but they have done some research studies and they found that everybody actually feels better if they do something else rather than TV, just get out and go for a walk, anything, some kind of activity, you'll feel a lot better. But it can be just I leave white space and I'll end up just puttering around my house, watering my plants. I end up doing straightening little things up. But it's I'm not doing it because it's on my to-do list. I'm just kind of in the mood to putter around the house and do those things. So it's just decompression time where you can just, you can use that time to play around. If you've still got younger kids at home, you can just goof around with your kids. You can use it to explore new stuff. you know, if there's a topic that you're interested in that you haven't had time to dive into, or a new skill you want to learn that you haven't had a chance to try, or if you just have like big dreams that you haven't had a chance to sit and think about doing. It leaves you time for those sorts of things. It leaves you time to just breathe and just be. And sometimes, like, you're allowed to just sit there, really. But I really think it's important, because I found the more that I give myself permission to put white space in my schedule, the easier it is for me to do all that other stuff I know I need to do. I don't resent my workout time, or, you know, the time that I spend working on my business, or any of those other things that I need to do, because I know I have white space. I know there's going to be time for me to just decompress and chill out. So that's one little trick that I find I've been actually really surprised by how powerful it is. Because then, you know, when that little piece of your brain starts protesting that you don't want to work out, or you don't want to go for a walk, or you'd rather just sit on the couch and read a book, or whatever, you know, you can say, look, brain, there's time for that later. Like, I can point to your schedule and say, look, this is the time we get to do that flaking out thing. Right now we're going for a walk. I know it sounds a little silly, but give it a try. And actually, for me, it's been huge. Like, just knowing I have space, so it's not scheduled. It's amazing. Okay, but it takes discipline to do this. It really does, because we feel like we should be doing something always, okay? All right, so just to recap the 5 ways that you can use discipline in your life to be really effective. 1 was building habits. 2 was pushing through discomfort. Really, you know, this is a huge skill. It's going to get you far. And we can all work on it together, because I'm working on it too. 3, knowing when to back off. Listen to your body. If you're nursing an injury, chronic pain, stuff like that, switch gears if you need to, okay? 4, setting boundaries. Don't say yes to everyone. Say you're allowed to say yes to yourself and what you want. And 5 is in creating your schedule, leaving some white space there, okay? So I think that's everything I have to say about discipline today. Let me know if you have any questions, comments. You can leave me a message down below in the comments. You can private message me, or you can give me an email at yourfitnessgroove@gmail.com. I'm just going to ask you guys one favor. If you did get something out of this video and you found it helpful, can you please share it? Because then your friends can watch it and they can get something out of it too. Okay? And, you know, if you've been listening to this and thinking, oh my gosh, you know, I really need some help with this stuff, with regards to your health and fitness, I'm here to help you with that. And if you want, like, I am not going to try and hard sell you. If you just have some questions about what it might be like to work together and whether that might be for you, please just reach out. You can email me. Again, it's yourfitnessgroove@gmail.com, or you can give me a call, 905-536-0148, or text me at that number. I'm absolutely not going to hard sell you. I'm not like those pushy gym people. But, you know, if you're feeling like you need support to get the job done, I'd be honored if I could help you with that. So we can certainly explore that. Okay? So that is it for this week, and have a great week. Rock the discipline, and I'll be back here next week at 2 p.m. Eastern, hopefully on time with no technical difficulties. And until then, have a great week. See you later, guys.